anytime I see Dark World log down a regional top 8, I think the event's worth talking about. Don't beg the 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We're going to be looking at the France regional breakdown today, and you're going to be looking at this pie chart, and you're going to be like, I've seen these ratios before. You're having a Despia and Tierra duking it out, and I love the fact that when I made my tier list, I was like, they're representing, they're hitting higher numbers on some of these regional levels, and people... We look at the data every single week and people are like, it's not hitting those levels. Well, here you're seeing double Despia, double cash money dollar bills, the deck, both hitting those key notes here and both being the highest represented decks out of this top cut. Now, does that mean that they're slightly ahead of the rest of the event? Tierra did win the event, so that's something else that you kind of got to be aware of here is between these two decks, Tierra is kind of feeling like it's coming out a little bit further ahead in terms of its overall usage within the format. So I like what we're starting to see here. Now, we had one Mathemat deck in the top cut, and you guys have heard me be pretty positive about this. Since the buy steals are just cruise control into 99 Town, there's no real reason for this deck not to be successful. Now, if the buy steals were to wake back up, this deck's going to have some issues again. We also had one Labyrinth player in the top cut, which is actually kind of nice as well. See a little bit of a return back to the table here for Labyrinth, because that deck's been kind of a little bit asleep. And we also had one Sprite Duelist make their way into top cut. And the reason why we're talking about this video is because Dark World squeaked on into top cut as well. Oh, Macrocosmos running around. Dark World's not good. Yes, it is possibly working right now. The fact that the format has slowed down at such a nice pace has allowed all of these decks to kind of compete against each other. And that's what you love to see. Let's pass on over to top deck list. Winning your event here was Cash Money Dollar Bills, the deck. Now, what's most interesting about this list is we are on 5 books in this deck. I don't know how this duelist was worried about like defensive options or having to deal with anything, but they really packed it on in here to showcase that we need defensive options. This build is also packing in heavy enemy controllers as well, which is also kind of interesting. We're just full steam ahead in here for anti-anything in the format. We're even citing the extra Book of Eclipse. So you have effectively, you're already main decking 8 defensive cards, effectively, right? 7? And then you board on up to 8. Push aside the thrust. I feel like if you have to thrust into the evenlies with the books, like this deck is just going to tear through your opponent. So that's very interesting to kind of take note of what's going on in this. So good stuff. Second place here was actually Despia. Yeah, look at that. The two best decks colliding heads here and doing their thing. But down here in the side deck, holy by steel. They really packed in the amount of buy steals that were present here. Triple Magna Hunt, 1 Baldric, 1 Durasworm. And of course we are citing the Marine Neos with the Aqua Dolphin package, so it gives this deck the option to scout into your opponent's hand and rip away a hand trap. And to top things off, we're citing the Expulsion package for the Gimmick Puppet, so that's a pretty normal thing at this point in time. And we're citing the Denko Sekas as well. This side deck is so packed to smash through anything that you might encounter within the format. I actually really like that. The more option trees that you can usually cover and make sure that you're not going to lose to something random usually ends up being more of the advantage out here. Next up is our Sprite list here. Now, this is actually, I would consider pretty standard, though the first thing that catches me off guard here is we're playing double Arise Heart. I guess technically you do have enough room in this deck, and we're already main deck and Change of Heart and Mind Control anyway, so that we can go ahead and just detour take the opponent's monster, so that shouldn't be any sort of issue with anything that the opponent would be putting up on the field for us to deal with. I do see that standard side stuff is fine. Everything feels pretty normal for this deck. If you haven't noticed with a lot of these lists, Fenrir has become a pretty big part of these decks. And with the inclusion of Fenrir in these decks, it really does help them get the chance to get off of the ground and actually have some levels of interruption. So that's actually a very big positive as well. So I like what we're seeing here. Next up is our Labyrinth Deck. Okay, so we're playing 2 of the Green Servant, Triple Lovely, 1 of the Mid Lovely, and then 1 of the Lord of the Heavenly Prison. If you haven't noticed, Lord of the Heavenly Prison's been showing up in a lot of these lists, usually as a 1-of, just for the chance to kind of detour the opponent and have some levels of protection. But I never really see it maximized. I think it's because like they would rather just have the amount of regular normal traps in here actually working. Can we get a hollow upgrade for Terrors of the Overroot, by the way? Super rare of that would look very, very nice. Commons, just side deck, or excuse me, extra deck here, we have the Lingaribo, so you can actually play the game for when your opponent hands you a Nightmare Corrupt Ridley. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things, is not being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then our side deck down here, the Eradicators, which have become a pretty big norm in here as well. And yeah, everything else looks pretty standard for this. Next up here is our Mathemat Deck. Now this actually breaks the standard mold that we've had going on for Mathemat here, because 95% of the Mathemat decks that we've covered on this channel have been 1 equation, 1 superfactorial. The equation gives you an extension option and something to search, but this build just went for the double superfactorial. I don't know if they just felt that they didn't need the extension options with equation, which is very much a high possibility. But that is definitely something that we have seen be a huge player out here. It's just the fact that equation matters all that much. We're also main decking the 1 Book of Eclipse, which I think is fine. Dark Roll and Omors for board breaking, also pretty standardized options out here as well. I don't see anything really too out of left field for this. This feels very, very standard for what we've seen, minus what I mentioned already. Next up here is our second Cash Tierra deck. Now for this, we have chosen to play the Crossout Designator package. Now, Crossout has definitely been a very good card to help this deck actually get the chance to be successful. Also, by playing it, you get the chance to play some odd numbers of hand traps. For example, I mean, we're playing 1 Book of Eclipse, we're playing 1 Nibiru, we're playing double copies of Ash Blossom, which is fine. I think the other thing that catches me a little bit off guard here is we're also playing triple copies of Dimension Shifter in this, which I don't think is necessarily bad. It's way nowhere near the amount of value that it had going for it in previous iterations. But that's kind of important to know. I see that we're siding Lances, we're siding 1 Thrust to toggle into evenly. A lot of the standard culprit stuff that we've seen out here. So, yeah, I'm not really surprised at all to see that this has worked its way out on into Topka here. And then we have our other Despia deck here. Now, this build is playing the Light Hex Seal Fusion, and you already know anytime that the Light Hex Seal Fusion is usually involved, there's usually a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Well, there it is. It's down in the extract. That's that, or you can just play the Vanilla Dark Magician so that you can at least get the destruction effect on the field at least once to burn your opponent. It actually does come up. Don't underestimate that. And I see that this build is also playing the Raw's Disciple. I mean, you kind of pick your poison. You're either going to play the Raw's Disciple, you're going to play the Gimmick Puppet, or you're going to play the DD Orthros, but locking your opponent into Fiend with Orthros isn't quite as good. And outside of that, triple fusion deployment, triple super poly is pretty normal. 1 Branded Lost is fine. The Bysteel package feels a little bit extended with the triple Magna Hut, the 1 Saranir, and the 1 Druisworm, but I don't effectively see anything too wrong with that. So looks pretty straightforward here. I'll take it. And our last list here is our Dark World list. We're actually playing double Ascension. I feel like a lot of people have cut down Ascension to 1. Don't quote me on that, but from what I'm remembering, that was a lot of value there. I also see that we're playing triple copies of Exceed Encore as well. All right. We also have our Bysteel package in the side decks. We're playing 4 Bysteels. Just 1 Bigfoot with triple Nessie, which is fine. We're playing 1 Talents, triple Allure, and triple copies of Gates. Wow, this duelist was really covering as much ground as they could here to make sure that they could have the best round of matchups. Okay, so you guys think about these lists today. Please leave a comment about how much you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.